The first top 25 victory for Texas Tech football took place on Saturday afternoon at Jones AT&T Stadium, where the Texas Tech Red Raider defense was absolutely sensational. Hey, how's it going, everybody? I'm RC Maxwell here for the Back to 12 podcast, reminding you, if you haven't already, be sure to hit that big red button to stay in the know on Texas Tech athletics all year long. Now, in today's video, we will obviously be talking about Texas Tech football, and as I mentioned, they did get their first top 25 victory in, well, a few years, as the last one they had before the Houston game this past Saturday was in 2019 in Stillwater, where they defeated the Cowboys 45-35. We'll also take a look around Texas Tech athletics this past weekend and see how soccer did, volleyball did, as well as tennis. But let's start at Jones AT&T Stadium, where the Red Raiders upset the number 25 Houston Cougars 33-30 in double overtime. And it was really a tale of two halves for the Red Raiders in this one, specifically on offense. Donovan Smith looked absolutely phenomenal in the first half, but in the second half, he made a few decisions, about 5 or 6 really, that were questionable at best. And I don't mean to criticize him too much, because in the end, he came back and he showed why he is probably the guy for this Texas Tech team moving forward until Tyler Shuck comes back. I know I had this tweet out there, and if you don't follow me on Twitter, at RCMB323, where people got upset that I said there should be a competition. But I do think there should be a competition every week at the quarterback position, just because of how this coaching staff does things. I think that they've been very vocal that we want to have competition in this program, and I think the quarterback spot is a spot to have that. Now, I can also admit I was dead wrong when it came to that, because it was a premature tweet. I can admit that when it comes down to it. But I think Donovan Smith showed why he is the guy moving forward, in the sense that, listen, you can have arguably your worst half of football, and who knows how long for Donovan Smith. That was a terrible second half, and I think he will be the first one to tell you that. But he was resilient, and him and Zach Kittley got together going into overtime, and he absolutely balled out. He was the reason that the Red Raiders won in the end of it when it came down to it in the overtime setting. Now, the reason they got to overtime, let's be honest, this Texas Tech defense, and we have been hyping them up for really all off season. We didn't know what to expect from the defensive line. What were we going to get from the linebackers and Kosi Eldridge? We knew what you had in Kershaw Merriweather, and then a lot of people, including myself, were hyping up the secondary. And let me tell you this, that was the best game that a Texas Tech defense has played in who knows how long, to be honest with you. That was a perfection, chef's kiss type of performance by Tim DeRuyter's bunch. You got pressure on the quarterback in Clayton Tune, where he just looked pedestrian at times. He made a couple of plays where really it seemed like Houston could only do 4 things offensively, or were willing to do 4 things offensively, which was pass it to Nathaniel Dell, pretty good idea, whether that was run with the running back or Clayton Tune, and then just run the football. That was it. That was their whole really thing that they did. And I guess they had a couple of screens to the running backs as well, but they were very just 1 or 2 dimensionalized on the offensive side for Houston. And I think you have to give a lot of credit to Tim DeRuyter and that crew. They were getting pressure on Clayton Tune. The secondary was playing lights out. You had a spy on him quite a bit, because you know Clayton Tune is athletic and he's mobile, and he can get out and get you a couple of yards and really continue those drive and just be pesky when it comes down to it. Now, Texas Tech defensively, the secondary was awesome. Obviously, Reggie Pearson had a pick. But the defensive line is what we need to talk about moving forward. Because if this is the defensive line that Texas Tech will have moving forward, with Bellotti, with Moore, with Pierre, with guys that we already know that are established on the defensive line, in Hutchings, Bradford, and obviously Tyree Wilson, this is a game changer for Texas Tech. Now, I'm not going to go out here and say that, oh, they're going to be world beaters every week. No, that's not fair. But this is a game changer in terms of expectations for Texas Tech, because if the offense lives up to what we think it is, and maybe it's inconsistent here or there, as it showed on Saturday against Houston, it still put up 33 points, right? But if you do what you are doing defensively, like you did against Houston, moving forward, and even just 75% of it, Texas Tech is going to upset at least another 2 teams on their schedule. Who is that going to be? I'm not sure. But that defense has taken a monumental step forward and will win Texas Tech football games just like they did on Saturday. That was a defensive win, and Texas Tech just gritted it out offensively, and it ended up working out, and you beat a very good Houston team. Don't be surprised if they win the American this year. Remember what they did last year. Texas Tech beat them down in Houston, and then Houston ran the table. They went 11-1 after that in the regular season. Texas Tech beat a very good Houston team at home, and the fans got to rush the field. So it was a great game for the Red Raiders. As for the stats, I know I've been talking for 5 minutes. I haven't even brought up the stats yet. That's how good of a game it was. Donovan Smith, as I mentioned, did struggle in terms of first and second half, but really put it together in overtime to get Texas Tech a win. He had 3 total touchdowns, 1 rushing, 2 passing, and he did have 3 interceptions. He threw 58 times. I don't know if that's what Texas Tech wants to do moving forward, but hey, a win's a win, and you are 2-0 heading to Raleigh, North Carolina next weekend. When it comes to rushing, it was the Taj Brooks show. He had 18 carries in this one, did Taj Brooks. SaRodorick Thompson, the other lead running back for Texas Tech, only had 5 and had 9 touches total as he had 4 receptions. Taj Brooks also had 5 catches as well. When it comes to the wide receivers, hey, Martinez, the Lubbock native, he had his first career touchdown. It was a hell of a TD too, as he broke multiple tackles, I should say, from the U of H defense and scored from 43 yards out to give Texas Tech a little slight edge there in the first half. And then Miles Price led the way with 5 receptions, 78 yards, and a TD. Now, Texas Tech, they did also create a couple turnovers. Taylor Demerson had 1, and then Pearson as well with the interception. When it came to the defensive side of things, not as many QB hurries and sacks in this one, obviously, against Murray State, where they had 13 tackles for losses in that one. They only had 4 in this one and 2 sacks, but leading the way in terms of tackles was Kershawn Merriweather. Rabbit with 7, Muddy Waters with 6. I thought Muddy Waters probably played his best game as a Red Raider after transferring from Duke in this one. And now the Red Raiders will head east to play the number 18 North Carolina State Wolfpack, who absolutely put a butt whooping on Charleston Southern, 55-3. And I get it, it's Charleston Southern. And a lot of people were thinking, well, they barely beat East Carolina. That's a rivalry game. It's kind of like North Carolina State doesn't want to admit it, but it's a rivalry game. They always seem to play them close, do the Pirates, and they won that game. So it'll be a 2-0 matchup out in Raleigh. Texas Tech did receive votes in the top 25 AP poll. They actually received 17 votes. They're a little bit away from being ranked, but I'll tell you this, if they beat North Carolina State, they will be ranked, no doubt about it. And hey, we'll have all the coverage this week about it right here on the Back to 12 podcast channel. Be sure to hit that big red button and stay in the know. We're giving you daily Texas Tech videos on everything you need to know going on in Texas Tech athletics, whether that's in football, men's basketball. I will have a video out this week. I actually got to go watch men's basketball practice as well as women's basketball. I'll have a basketball update for you guys in terms of what I kind of saw at practice and what I think expectations should be, and a couple players that stood out on both teams. We'll be talking about them. We'll be talking about baseball, softball, volleyball, soccer, you name it in Texas Tech athletics. We will talk about it on these videos, so be sure to hit that big red button to stay in the know on Texas Tech athletics all year long right here on the Back to 12 podcast channel. Now, let's go over what happened in Texas Tech athletics this weekend, as volleyball, they continue to just absolutely scorch the earth. Unfortunately, they did lose their first game of the year, or first match of the year, I should say, to Rice on Sunday. But down in Houston, they won on Friday and Saturday. They beat Texas A&M Corpus Christi in straight sets on Friday, and then they beat Brown in straight sets on Saturday. And really, when you look at everything, Texas Tech volleyball has just been absolutely sensational this year under Tony Greystone, and they will have a big-time tournament. Be sure to go support them at the Red Raider Classic. It will be at the, USA. You know that by now. But they have some big-time programs coming in for this one. I remember when I was calling games for them, it was, a middle-league program here, a middle-league program there. But they've got some big-time talent coming in here, including SMU, Oral Roberts, Arizona State, as well as UTRGV. So be sure to go support these ladies this weekend. It starts on Thursday with SMU coming in. Then you got Oral Roberts, you got Arizona State. As I mentioned, 2 games on Friday, and then on Saturday they face off against UTRGV. You can listen to that on KTXT 88.1 The Raider, or you can watch it and listen to those dulcet tones of Jeff Haxton calling those games on ESPN+. Elsewhere, you had Texas Tech soccer get back in the win column as they headed to Denton and faced off against the Mean Green. They won 3-2. Coach Stone's crew is now 2-2 on the season as they won 3-2 in Denton. And now when you look around and you look at, hey, what happened with men's tennis, right? Well, men's tennis, they performed admirably this weekend as day one was probably not what they really wanted when it came down to it, but they did have somebody go to the quarterfinals this weekend, and Ribeiro, pretty good stuff for Texas Tech men's tennis as Franco Ribeiro is heading to the quarterfinals, headed to the quarterfinals, I should say, for men's tennis, because when you look at what they did on day two, that's where things really went well for Texas Tech as Ribeiro actually had a top 20 victory and Stewart won his 3 matches on day 2. So really good stuff from Tyler Stewart and Franco Ribeiro for men's tennis. But hey, that's going to wrap it up for your recap of Texas Tech athletics this weekend. Again, the biggest story by far was Texas Tech getting their first top 25 victory in football since 2019 against Oklahoma State. That has obviously changed as the Red Raiders got to rush the field and got a top 25 victory. And Joey McGuire, well, the brand lives on, and that was a brand victory, as Joey McGuire said during his press conference after that win, 33-30 on Saturday over the Houston Cougars. I'll be back tomorrow, and again, one more time, be sure to hit that big red button to stay in the know on everything Texas Tech athletics right here on the Back to 12 podcast channel.